Hello, and welcome to the Pillar to Post Sewer Lateral Inspection. This is for address 6301 East 8th Avenue, Denver, Colorado 80220. Today I am accessing the basement toilet, and we're beginning the inspection looking into the city main. Now, the purpose of me beginning the inspection looking into the city main is, first thing I like to evaluate on film, what is referred to as your tap. Now, your tap is a connection from your 4-inch sewer line leaving the home, connecting us to this big 8-inch main line we're looking at here. It is important to evaluate the tap because even though we are in the city street, the tap and sewer line leading up to it are still the homeowner's responsibility. Now, with that said, unfortunately, I did find a conflict at your tap. And we're going to take a look at that here. What we have is some breaking, some fracturing of the pipe here. And as you can see, this is within the flow rate, meaning water is flowing by this area. I'm going to discuss this within the flow rate and out of the flow rate, as some fractures found in the line are deemed acceptable and not causing a hindrance in functionality, and some will be. But given that this one is below the flow rate, it unfortunately is allowing for sewage and water to escape the line. So I am suggesting corrective measures being made at the tap. Now, with that said, we have more hairline fractures. You're going to see a lot of these at the top of the pipe, and this is what I'm referring to in regards to the flow rate. Typically, at full volume, sewer water will run through your line at about 50% of the pipe. So you'll see a solid discoloration on the left or right side of the sewer line. That indicates in your specific line, like we're seeing here on the right side, where the water will flow at max volume. Now, unfortunately, this fracture is within the flow rate. Once again, you can see it's on the bottom right side, and that is a hindrance to functionality. So we are suggesting corrective measures being made there. You're going to hear me say this sort of thing a few times throughout. Now, clay sewer lines do come in shorter segments of pipe to allow for expansive soils or ground shifting. And sometimes these shifts can be extreme and cause extra tension or pressure on the pipe, which can cause fracturing and breaking over time. So it is very common and typical to see these sort of fractures occur throughout the sewer line here. But when these 3-foot segments of pipe shift over time, you will see offsets or misalignments. So seeing the lip or face of the pipe, like we're seeing on the left side there, does not indicate damage. More so the pipe is doing its job and shifting as necessary. But when these shifts occur, it will allow the introduction for root systems, such as bush or tree roots, to intrude or enter into the sewer line. Now, this is only a minor hairline fracture at this point. I do not see any indication that root systems are intruding, and I do not see any indication that water is dissipating or escaping the line. Typically, a vortex-like appearance in the channel or base of the pipe would indicate water is escaping, but minor surface fractures like this, unfortunately, do not fix themselves. I do not see a need for correction at this hairline fracture currently, but does have the potential in the future to become a complete complication or issue in functionality. We are going to see some minor hairline fractures at the top of the pipe, like we're seeing on the front left side here, at about the 10-11 o'clock position. Not a hindrance currently. But with the ability for root systems to intrude or enter this clay sewer line, this generally means I recommend routine cleaning every 1 to 3 years. And that 1 to 3 year mark does depend on a few different factors, but mostly volume of use. So if you're home throughout the day, water's constantly being ran, I suggest cleaning once a year. And if it's more night and weekend use, people go to work and school and such, I'd suggest cleaning once every 3 years. This is going to depend on you, the homeowner, because I'm not going to be back to check on you. Now, in regards to cleaners, if you do plan on prolonging the need for a cleaner to every 2 or 3 years, I strongly advise using foaming or granulated tree root cleansers. You can pick these up at your local hardware store. I generally try to avoid the harsh corrosive products, but there are some granulated cleansers made out of 99% copper sulfate, very low on the chemical scale, really good at dissolving these root systems. Follow the instructions on the packaging, but typically needs about an 8-hour cure time, so I just recommend before bed, giving it 8 hours and then running hot water through the line. Now, these will help reduce the need for a professional cleaner, but won't completely replace the need, as it will not completely remove the tree roots, just those below the high water mark that they can catch as they travel through the line. Right here, we have a minor standing body of water. I am deeming this one self-purging. This is based on water testing before and after the standing water, and based on the staining in the pipe as well. So we're reading the line itself, indicating that water is flowing properly. Unfortunately, we do have some fracturing right here on the right side of the pipe that will allow for dissipation as it is within the high water mark. Once again, this is how I'm calling it, with these original clay sewer lines. And we have a nice big fracture at the top of the pipe here. Now this will allow the introduction of root systems. If not routinely maintained or cleaned, potentially the root systems can expand this fracture and cause complications, but right now, currently holding its integrity, a possible future conflict. And we have the fracturing present here. This one is within the flow rate and is great enough to cause complications. And once again, I base this on water measuring and testing. I'm looking for signs of dissipation or intrusions of root systems, which is another indication that sewage and water can escape the line. And here we have a nice root curtain left behind by the cleaner. These sort of things can happen. So in regards to these professional cleaners, generally recommend, first things first, avoiding the multi-facet companies. The big box truck clean / repair / inspect companies, they tend to love to upsell. It means they'll come to clean your sewer line and try and sell you a new one using scare tactics or at least a kitchen sink along the way. So to avoid that hassle, I generally recommend hiring a professional cleaner only. Right here on the bottom right side of the pipe, we do see more fracturing. This is a complication of functionality, suggesting corrective measures being made there. Now I will be marking up all of these areas of concern in the yard and attaching a picture to the report of the location of these. But given how close and consecutive these repairs are, generally from point A to point Z would be the way to repair these, meaning rather than digging up patches in different spots in the yard, typically just one complete replacement of different segments of pipe is the way to go about replacing these sort of things. Now this circular fracture is allowing root growth. We are not at a joiner connection, and we can see root systems are intruding, and that is at the top of the pipe, but the fracture does continue along the left side of the pipe. Currently not a hindrance, but does have the potential in the future once again. Now, when seeking out these professional cleaners only, as there are at least 30 licensed professional cleaners in the state of Colorado, strongly advise asking at least 3 questions, which would be, are you insured? Are you certified? And you bring a sewer camera with you. Reason being is cleaners that are insured and certified generally mean they've been properly trained on the equipment they're operating and are less likely to cause damage during the process. But even if they do cause damage, their insurance would cover it. Once again, circular fracture above the flow rate, not hindering functionality currently, does have the potential for future concern. Now, most importantly, in regards to cleaners, if that cleaner brings a camera, they can run that camera before they clean and take note as to where the major buildup or intrusions are, so they'll know where to operate their equipment a little bit more so. And we have another hairline fracture above the flow rate, not hindering functionality. But most importantly for that cleaner, as I continue jogging back and forth between discussions, if they have the camera, they could run it after they're done cleaning to say or show proof or verification that they've done their job properly. As mentioned, customer did disclose that cleaning did occur 3 weeks ago, and this cleaner unfortunately left a very big root curtain that does have the potential in the next 6 months or so to hinder functionality. Even though these lines need to be cleaned typically every 1 to 3 years, you don't want extra cleanings needed because they forgot to do their job. So verification of work is strongly recommended with video proof. Right here we have a fracture towards the channel of the pipe. This is allowing root introduction and is a conflict. Once again, I am marking all of these locations in the yard where I'm suggesting corrective measures be made. Fantastic, just more root intruding at the joint. And we have a couple more conflicts before we enter the home. This one here, as we can see, the root growth is towards the channel or base of the pipe, below that 50% mark where the high water will flow. So this means that these roots are gaining nutrients from the sewage and water traveling through the line, which is just another obvious indication that sewage and water are escaping the line and corrective measures are recommended. Right here we have another circular fracture, and this one is towards the channel. I did mark this one up as well. Now the last one would be right before foundation wall, and this one is above the flow rate. Once again, top of the pipe, minor, very minor surface fracture at the bottom. Now right at foundation wall, we're going to see some slight breaking or separating of the pipe right over here. Pardon me, we're going to pass this one. Now, once again, top of the pipe break, not a current hindrance, but external pressures could eventually or potentially break and separate this. Given the location of it, it is in between two other areas, and just a few feet in between two other areas corrections are recommended. So once again, it typically, and we are approximately 7 feet deep throughout the yard here. So you don't want to dig a pit 7 feet deep, skip 3 feet and dig another pit. It's generally just recommended to have all areas of concern corrected. Right here we have a nice heave or shift to the pipe. So not only is it broken, but it's also shifting as it breaks. This is most likely external pressures. Once again, I cannot verify. I can just verify this is a conflict of functionality as root systems are intruding. And once again, these root systems can expand over time and cause complete separation or breaking or failure of the pipe. So I am suggesting corrective measures being made there. This is outside the foundation wall near the window well. And then throughout the home, original cast iron metal is used. I did find one conflict in the cast iron metal as well. Would be at the top of the pipe. Now, some of the concerns in the clay line outside the home at the top of the pipe are minor at this point, meaning they're not hindering functionality. But some of these concerns in cast iron can complicate things. We never want to see root systems entering cast iron pipes, given how close we are underneath the home. This means that moisture is leaving the water and gathering in the soils underneath the home. This could complicate things greater. Whenever we see root systems present in cast iron, typically is an immediate failure. And that's what we're going to start seeing right about here. So approximately 19 feet. And this is only running for 1.5 feet in the basement bedroom. I did map this out. And we could see complete separation there. Not only do we see complete separation at the top of the pipe, we also see root systems intruding or entering the pipe during that separation. This means the potential for complete failure is present. And right there we see those root systems once again running for approximately 1.5 feet. So it does kind of taper off right about here. And that is only about 1.5 feet deep as well, located in the basement. So not too exhaustive to get to. Now, other than that, the rest of the line did check out. So majority of the clay line outside the home is showing complications, but there are a good 15 to 20 foot run where there are no complications found. Next measures would be is recommended to be discussed with repair companies, as I only dictate the conflicts in the line. Alrighty, so let's exit the line here and show our location or access point. Pardon me. I'm going to wipe off my lens here. Potentially. There we go. So here we are. This is the toilet removal provided by the customer. We are in the basement bathroom here. So once again, we have multiple fractures, some hairline not hindering functionality, some greater causing complications. When mapping out in the yard, I did notice some grooving in the yard, which usually indicates that sewage and water has been escaping for some time. So we are suggesting corrective measures be made. But with that said, I'm also going to suggest reading the written report. On there, I do list a few simple do's and don'ts that any homeowner can utilize to help maintain their drain lines in the future. You do not necessarily need to be a plumber to follow my suggestions, but they will help prolong drain line health in the future or in the home. With that said, I'll end the video now by saying thank you very much. Concludes our inspection for today.